The Frogs Wore Red Suspenders. Rhymes by Jack Prelutsky. Pictures by Petra Mathers.
The frogs wore red suspenders, the frogs wore red suspenders, and the pigs wore purple vests, as they sang to all the chickens and the ducks upon their nests. They croaked and oinked a serenade, the ducks and chickens sighed, then laid enormous spangled eggs, and quacked and clucked with pride.
In the heart of South Dakota. In the heart of South Dakota, Jenny Jay stepped off a train, leapt upon a nearby bison, and raced across the windy plain. On that day in South Dakota, Jenny Jay sat on a fence, gazing at the wondrous mountain, topped with giant presidents.
Carpenter, 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 build us a house, a sweet little house for a mouse and a spouse, a mouse and a spouse and a family too. We know that you can, and we hope that you do. Build it out of brick so it's cozy and warm, to keep us from harm in the cold winter storm. As soon as you finish, we'll pay you with cheese. Carpenter, carpenter, build our home, please.
Winnie Appleton. Out of bed hopped Winnie Appleton, bounced a ball upon the floor, bounced and bounced it through the hallway, down the stairs and out the door. Through the streets of Minneapolis, Winnie Appleton bounced that ball, bounced and bounced it on the sidewalk, bounced and bounced it off a wall. Winnie Appleton crossed the river, on the bridge she bounced that ball, bounced and bounced it all that morning, till she finally reached St. Paul.
In a winter meadow. In a winter meadow, icy breezes blow, snowshoe hares are running softly through the snow. Up and down they scurry, darting left and right. Snowshoe hares are running, dressed in winter white.
Peanut Peg and Peanut Pete. Peanut Peg and Peanut Pete, on a bright Atlanta street, call in voices loud and clear, "Peanuts, get your peanuts here!" Peanut cookies, peanut cakes, peanut butter, peanut shakes, peanut ices, peanut pies, peanut sauce, and peanut fries. All day long they gaily sell, peanuts still inside the shell, peanut salty, peanut sweet, Peanut Peg and Peanut Pete.
Spotter and Swatter. Spotter and Swatter, two talented otters, crack mussels and clams on their bellies all day. They swallow down dozens, then play with their cousins, and chase one another through Monterey Bay.
There was a tiny baker. There was a tiny baker who had a tiny shop. He baked a tiny cookie with frosting on the top. He snatched it from the oven and ate that cookie up, then washed it down with sarsaparilla from a tiny cup.
In Indianapolis. In Indianapolis, what did we see? An elephant perched on a sycamore tree, sipping warm milk through an oversized straw. In Indianapolis, that's what we saw. In Indianapolis, what did we do? We danced on the green with a blue kangaroo. The elephant sneezed, so we ran off and hid. In Indianapolis, that's what we did.
Red horse, white horse, black horse, gray. Red horse, white horse, black horse, gray, in a pasture hard at play, snort and neigh and stamp their feet, nibble bluegrass, fresh and sweet. Through the fields they romp and race, frolicking with speed and grace, on a fair Kentucky day. Red horse, white horse, black horse, gray.
I went to the store. I went to the store for a pear and a plum. The fruit was all gone, so they sold me a drum. I asked them for butter. They offered me glue. I tried to buy bread, but they sold me a shoe. They sold me a lamp when I tried to buy cheese. Instead of potatoes, I wound up with keys. They didn't have milk, so they sold me an oar. I'll never go back to that store anymore.
Granny Gooding. Granny Gooding lost her footing, fell into a pudding vat. There was pudding on her jacket, pudding in her hat. There was pudding in her slippers, pudding on her dress. Ever since she lost her footing, Granny Gooding's been a mess.
In Winnemucca, In Winnemucca, way out west, a monkey sat in a bluebird's nest. The bluebird squawked and fussed all day, till the monkey ran to San Jose.
Sarah Small. In her garden, Sarah Small grows galoshes, short and tall. Shirts of yellow, hats of red, beautify her flower bed. Near pajamas, row on row, multicolored sweaters grow. Neckties flutter in the breeze underneath the mitten trees. Shoes of every shape and size blossom right before her eyes. Stocking vines adore the wall, planted there by Sarah Small.
One old owl. One old owl upon a tree, high atop a hill, watched the forest silently while the night was still. One old owl looked around while the moon was bright, flapped its wings without a sound, and flew off into the night.
Barnaby Boone. Barnaby Boone, in his yellow balloon, flew from El Paso one bright afternoon. He drifted for days through the blue Texas skies, feasting on hamburgers, hot dogs, and pies. He drifted up north and he drifted out east, until he had finished the last of his feast. He ran out of food, so he came back to earth, landing his yellow balloon in Fort Worth.
I'm a little brown toad. I'm a little brown toad, and I live all alone. I hop, hop, hop from stone to stone. I have a happy grin as I hop down the road, for I'm glad, glad, glad I'm a little brown toad.
One day in Seattle. One day in Seattle, I sat by the sound. The salmon were jumping, the birds flew around. These seagulls were begging for morsels of bread, as ominous clouds gathered high overhead. A ferry went out, and a ferry came in. It started to rain. I got soaked to my skin. Seattle is lovely, but I cannot lie. Without an umbrella, it's hard to stay dry.
In the town of Tucumcari. In the town of Tucumcari, teeny Bobs and Tiny Grand hopped atop a lizard's back and headed south across the sand. They were noisy, they were merry, till they reached the town of Hobbs. Then the lizard bucked and tossed them, Tiny Grand and Teeny Bobs.
Baby in a high chair. Baby in a high chair, baby in a bib, baby in a stroller, baby in a crib. Baby with the giggles, baby with a smile. Such a lovely baby, happy all the while.
In Tuscaloosa after dark, the donkeys gathered in the park. The ducks and chickens came along, and an old-time band played an old-time song. There were pigs and cows in the green grass field, and the cows all mooed, and the pigs all squealed, and the ducks quack-quacked, and the donkeys brayed, and the chickens clucked as the music played. They danced a jig, and they danced a reel, and they all sat down to a fine hot meal of corn and okra dumpling stew at that Alabama barbecue.
Every morning in Fort Myers. Every morning in Fort Myers, on the Gulf of Mexico, there's a flock of puzzled penguins looking high and looking low. All along the beach they waddle, searching for a sign of snow. They won't find it in Fort Myers, on the Gulf of Mexico.
Tommy lost a penny. Tommy lost a penny, a nickel and a dime. Tommy lost his shiny watch, it does not know the time. Tommy found his penny, his nickel and his dime. His watch is in a magpie's nest and keeps perfect time.
In Minot, North Dakota. In Minot, North Dakota, 3 mice went out to play. They bundled up in snowsuits one cold December day. They wrestled and they tumbled. They made a fort of snow as temperatures grew colder and winds began to blow. They built a handsome snow mouse about 4 inches high. They'd barely put the nose on it when the snowflakes filled the sky. A wind came out of nowhere. Their snow mouse blew away, and so they built a bigger one that North Dakota day.
Furry, furry squirrel, furry, furry squirrel, hurry, hurry, hop, scurry up the tree to the very top. When you reach the branches, hurry, turn around, furry, furry squirrel, scurry to the ground.
7 Snails and 7 Snakes. 7 snails and 7 snakes swam around the 5 great lakes. They took 7 years to go from Thunder Bay to Buffalo.
Down in the Grand Canyon, down in the Grand Canyon, a little hen sat, thinking of this thing and thinking of that. But she couldn't think of a way that a hen could get to the top of that canyon again. Her legs and her wings weren't up to the task, and as for a ride, there was no one to ask. Down in the Grand Canyon she's sitting there yet, watching the sunrise and watching it set.
10 Brown Bears. 10 brown bears with big bow ties gobbled plates of apple pies, and with every pie they ate, they piled up an empty plate. When they had a 10-foot pile, they rose in single file, and with bellies fat and fed, 10 brown bears marched home to bed.